There we go. I'm Dr. Kate Walker. Welcome to our Tuesday training on a Wednesday at 2. It's usually Tuesday at noon. So if you're catching me and you're like, why is Kate on right now? Well, that's because I am in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's a beautiful day. It's just wonderful. The Kick Retreat is something that I collaborate with the amazing Cindy Doyle, and we bring women together to help them work on their business. But sometimes the Wi-Fi could be very sketchy out here in the country. And while the sunsets are beautiful and there are amazing like cows and all these wonderful things everywhere, I mean, cows are wonderful, but bluebonnets and wineries and wonderful restaurants, yeah, the Wi-Fi can be a little iffy. So my apologies for being a little, well, I'm a day late, really, a day late and a dollar short. The topic, though, that's what's important. I'm talking about how to dress for the weather, working with difficult supervisees. Now, what I want you to get from this brief training is twofold. Number one, I want you to have an understanding of difficult. I just made air quotes if you're listening to this on a replay. And of course, I want you to have tools to manage situations that have happened and prevent or mitigate situations before they arise. So if you have heard me teach before, if you have taken my online 40-hour training to become a supervisor, then you're aware that I teach the developmental model. You're aware that I teach the OER framework. You're aware that I teach things like supervising by time or supervising by distance. My new book that's coming out, and it's so cool because I actually held it in my hands. It's the last chance I get to proof it, is the Clinical Supervision Survival Guide. It is referenced to, and it's a metaphor for, actually, I should flip that. It uses hiking as a metaphor, thus the title of the training today, Dressing for the Weather. So in hiking, there's no such thing as bad weather. I was hiking today. I hiked Enchanted Rock. It was gorgeous, but it started out cold. So if you know me, I had like 3 pair of leggings ready to go. I had 5 shirts ready to go. I had a new hat. I had all of these things because I don't like being cold ever. So I had dressed for cold, knowing that as we climbed through the day, that I would be taking things off and I would get down to my trusty t-shirt and shorts. So dressing for the weather means I know things will change. I know kind of when they'll change. If I have a weather app, I may know exactly what time things will change. Having that information allows me to plan accordingly, what I'll wear, how much water I need, how much food I need, what I need to tell my companions so that they experience a good trip as well. So we're not looking at this like, well, dang, it's cold, or, ooh, it sure is warming up and it's hot and I'm sweaty. I mean, we may complain because that's just sometimes fun to do on a hike. But in all reality, the reason we love hiking is because we're prepared. We know for the most part what's coming up, and we're able to plan so much because we have that knowledge. So in supervision, we have the developmental model. And that means we know, in effect, we have a good idea of what happens with a level 1 supervisee. We understand that they have a base level of knowledge, but very little experience, and what that means regarding their disposition, their clinical skills, their people skills, their ability to be supervised, receive criticism, get enough out of the process. All of those things, we know at level 1, it's a particular way, because at level 2, it will change. At level 2, sometimes called the honeymoon phase, this is when our supervisees realize, oh, you know what, this is a real job and it can be hard. And I do have a lot to learn, and I don't know if I'm up for this, but they're also showing autonomy. So they're pushing back a little bit on what we're telling them to do. And that pushback is incredibly normal, and it's needed in order for them to progress to level 3 and become our colleague, right? We need them to achieve a level of autonomy that they can analyze the information and create their own style of counseling that is ethical and informed and theory bound and all of those things, so that the clients are protected and the services are delivered in an effective way. So developmental model, hey, yeah, think of it like, I know what it's going to feel like in the morning. I know what it's going to feel like at 10 o'clock. And I know what it's going to feel like when I'm walking off the mountain at 2. I have an idea of what to wear, what to bring, how to dress, my water, my food. And I know what to tell my companions who are with me so that they can make informed decisions as well. So dressing for the weather when it comes to supervision starts with an understanding of the developmental model. Now, another thing that can inform dressing for the weather is to have a plan, right? Even though I've been to Enchanted Rock, 50 times, I always grab a paper map. I can get directionally challenged on the trail. My phone is usually either out of juice or no Wi-Fi to be found, as I've kind of shared with you. And so having a paper map allows me to now figure out what to do if I get turned around, if I find myself going up the wrong trail, if I'm coming down on the wrong side of Enchanted Rock, which you don't want to do because there's some drop-offs. So having tools to mitigate anything that might come up, well, that's what having a supervision plan is all about. Now in Texas, the 40-hour training courses are supposed to teach you how to create a contract. In fact, do not take a course unless one of the things they sell you is, hey gang, you're going to have a working contract at the end of this training. Well, what I teach my students, guess what? Nobody reads the contract. They want your signature. They're like, oh yeah, sounds great. I'm in. Can I signature, please? Please sign. Are you signing? Okay, good. So the plan is the beginning of the OER triad, this framework to help you successfully navigate supervision through those developmental stages, right? Your OER framework starts with your orientation. Well, the plan informs your orientation, right? If I'm going to sit and I'm going to take 10 people on a hiking adventure and we're leaving on Wednesday, you can darn well bet Tuesday evening, I'm going to sit them all down and say, okay, here's what's going on. Here's what we can expect. Here's what the weather's supposed to be. Here's what you should probably wear. Well, where did I come up with all that information? Hello, my plan, right? I start with a plan that I can pick up and hold in my hand, and I can add to and I can change. And I use that plan to disseminate information to my traveling partners, right? And so for supervisors, this plan is even more important than the contract, because this is what gives the contract its teeth and meat and whatever metaphor we're going to use here, right? If you say in your contract, we will meet weekly and sign paperwork, well, you better have a plan to schedule. That means schedule supervision, schedule in case there are missed supervision, schedule to make sure that your supervisee isn't getting all group, which in Texas is against the rule. You cannot have all group supervision. You must have half, at least, in individual supervision. And by the way, triadic is individual supervision. That's with supervisees 2 or less, that equals individual, but I digress. So you have to have this contract, right? Well, the plan is going to fill in all the details. So yes, we're going to meet 4 hours a month, and I'm going to explain my scheduling system to you. And I'm going to explain the procedure if you have to miss. And I'm going to explain the procedure for how to make it up. I'm going to explain the procedure if you no-show or late cancel and what impact that will have on your payment to me, if you're paying me, or on your job if supervising you is a part of our job. So I have consequences in place. Well, I have that in the contract. You're like, yeah, signed. But if it's in the plan and it informs my orientation, and we sit and we grab lunch and we spend 2 or 3 hours digging into this plan, which is, by the way, not set in stone, because let's say I have a plan for using Dropbox for our notes, and we're going to use Dropbox and we're going to scan notes in. You're going to leave every supervision session with a copy of your note. I've got an electronic copy. Everything's wonderful. And then, oh, wait, Dropbox doesn't work anymore. Dropbox is fine. I'm using an example here. We decide to switch to Google Workspaces. Okay, well, let's set a time where you and I can sit down and we don't have to go through the whole 3-hour plan again, but we're going to set almost an administrative meeting where we're going to say, hey, you know what? The weather's changed a little bit. Our software isn't doing what we needed to do. Here's how we're going to make changes. Here's how you and I are going to communicate about that. New procedure, new policy here, signature. Great. Now we're both on the same page again. So dressing for the weather means not just understanding the developmental model and the things that can happen that are normative and normal and necessary, but it's also having that plan for how you're going to organize your paperwork, how you're going to implement all of your lofty ideas in your contract, how you're going to provide consequences if things fall through. I mean, worst case scenario, you've got a supervisee who is not working out, right? I mean, on the trail, I have run into some bears, not very often, and they're always little black bears, and they're off way in the distance. But I've run into lightning storms. I've run into situations where I didn't pack enough water. So that's beyond the weather, what my weather app said would happen. This is stuff that's unexpected. But at least I started off with my plan. So if I'm out of water, I have contact with someone who can meet me with water. If I'm on the mountain and there's a lightning storm, I have a plan and a paper map so that I can get off the mountain. So what does that mean with supervision? Well, that's when we start talking about regular evaluations and formal remediation plans, which are the other two pillars of our OER framework. And so taking a 40-hour training, it's just not enough to leave the course with a working contract. Although brilliant, yay, get that. Any course that's going to say that it's preparing you to supervise must help you understand beyond the developmental model, beyond the contract, understanding that it starts with a plan for when things go right? Here we are, we're scheduling, we're sharing paperwork, we're storing paperwork, we're communicating, we're doing all the things. And when things don't go as planned, and it doesn't have to be something terrible, like a supervisee who's not acting right? I know that's kind of the title of this presentation was, okay, what to do with the supervisee who has a problem. Well, hey, supervisor, what if you have a problem, right? What if something comes up with your health, or something comes up where you have to step away from your practice, or God forbid, you have to close your practice? Your plan will have everything in place that you would ever need to make sure your poor supervisee isn't left high and dry, right? They come out of graduate school expecting to trust the next authority figure that they're faced with, right? If we tell them, hey, you need 3,000 hours of supervision, they're expecting all supervisors to kind of be the same, right? To know the rules, to be able to put things in place that protect them. So if you don't have a plan how to run your business, if you don't have a plan on how to take their payment, if you don't have a plan of how to, let's say if they're employed by you, if you're misclassifying them according to the IRS, right? That's not in their best interest. So this plan isn't just for them, right? And when things go wrong for them, this is for you as well, right? Honest mistakes. I'm not talking nefarious intentions. I'm talking about if you find out, oh crap, I didn't know I was supposed to supervise them for 24 months. I thought it was 18 months. Shoot, right? Now you have to go back and talk to your supervisee, revamp your plan, revamp maybe your pay schedule with them. So dressing for the weather isn't just for a troublesome supervisee situation. This is for life happening to you as well, supervisor. You're not perfect. You're not expected to be, right? We just appreciate the fact that you're in this, you're not giving up, and you're helping us fill the gaps in access to affordable mental health care in Texas and beyond, right? Every time we lose a supervisor because they were scared of the liability or they were faced with a situation that they didn't have support for, we don't just lose a supervisor. That is like losing 5 supervisees, which if you multiply 5 supervisees by 20 people on a caseload, right, we're talking 100 families that are impacted if you choose not to supervise because you didn't dress for the weather. So that's why I was really excited to write my book, the clinical super, no, what did I call it? I may edit this part out. The Clinical Supervision Survival Guide. It really is aimed to keep you in business, supervisor. And I don't just mean supervision business, making money. You can go check out my business plan episode. You can go check out how to start your supervision business in another episode. I'm talking about just keeping you from getting discouraged because the weather got bad, right? Something happened that was very level 2-ish, but maybe your 40-hour training didn't emphasize. Or you thought you had this great paperwork system, but your supervisor training didn't really teach you what to do if that didn't work out, or they didn't tell you how to make sure that you're keeping up with rules. They didn't give you an organization system. They didn't give you what to do when things don't go right, right? And that's what I do. That's why I love what I do. I'm literally here at this retreat finding new and better ways to make sure new supervisors get the support that they need. I don't want you to leave the business. I don't want you to sit and say, oh my gosh, I finished this 40-hour course. The liability is too high. Hell no, I'm not going to supervise. Or to have one bad situation, problem supervisee, life event, and your plan kind of fell apart. Y'all, that happens. It happens on the trail. It happens in life. That's what support is for. We're not supposed to do this alone. So dressing for the weather is for you, supervisor. Dressing for the weather is to protect your supervisee. It's to make sure we keep putting more excellent therapists out into the world because we need them. So ask me questions, tag me in the groups, all the things, right? And again, I apologize about the Wi-Fi. Oh my gosh. I hope that this gave you what you needed. If not, just give me feedback and I will fill in those gaps. So ask me questions and I will answer them. So this is Dr. Kate Walker. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me on a replay, participating live. If you're on Facebook right now, I will go in and I will check those comments and I will see you guys in about a week.